have with me author Thoraiya Dyer. And Thoreia's newest book, maybe first book, I'm trying to think. I think it's your first book. Yes, it's Crossroads of Canopy. Thank you so much for talking to me today, Thoraiya.
Thank you for having me.
I know. And we both know that her face is frozen at the minute, but we're just going to hope our internet connection gets better because you just never know with these things. But at least we can still chat because I'm in Pennsylvania and she's in Australia, so that is a long way away. So
it's like magic.
It is. Have you ever been to the United States, by the way?
I have, yes. So I have an uncle in Vancouver in Canada, and every time we went to visit him as a kid, we were choosing where we were going to go via, and one of the times we went via New York and Seattle, which was kind of a roundabout way, but yes. And more recently, like about 5 years ago, I was in Miami for a writers. It was a cruise ship with a writing workshop on board, and it was 5 days in the Bahamas, and it was fantastic.
Wow,
that's probably the furthest point from me, like the furthest point from Sydney on the planet or something.
Yeah, that is pretty far, and I've been to the Bahamas too, and it is beautiful there, you know. And I've been to Florida a lot, but I think if you had to pick a place to go to here, I think that's a pretty good place to go to.
Well, and Mum said to me, you must go to the Everglades because, she spent a lot of her childhood in Canada and she knew all the good foresty and national parks places. And I sort of, I had one day left over at the end, and I had one friend saying, you've got to come to Disneyland. It's this great thing, and it's got, the biggest tourist attraction in the world. And then I had these other friends who were quietly saying, we're going to look for alligators. Do you want to come with us? And I ended up going with them, and it was just incredible. And I'm so glad that I've seen it at this time that it's a little bit endangered. But, magnificent.
Well, I've never been to Vancouver. I've been to Canada, but not on the West Coast. So I've never been there, and I have never been to Australia. And in my wildest dreams, I'm like, I would love to go to Australia, but it's a long flight. Okay,
it is really long. It is really long, and there's no short way to go. Like I was looking at the globe and wondering, would it be shorter for me to go around the other way, like past Africa?
And it's just not, is it?
It's not, and it was but it was worth it. It was amazing and so different to, to the kind of trees and animals and things that we have here. I haven't been to South America, but sort of the rainforests in the Bahamas are the closest I could probably see to those kind of lizards and butterflies and amazing tropical fruit. Yeah, it was great.
Well, okay, and besides being an author, and we're going to talk about your book in a second, but what I found fascinating is that you're a vet? Are you like a veterinary doctor, or you just work with a vet?
So I was a veterinarian, like an actual veterinary surgeon, up until I was pregnant with my daughter, and I said to my boss, look, I need to stop doing x-rays and testing hormones and, administering anesthetics. Is that okay? And he said, yeah, that's fine. And then he went out on a house call, and here I was in the surgery by myself, and a dog came in with a broken leg. So I had to, A, give it an anesthetic, B, take an x-ray. And so, I left full-time work then, and that's when I decided to see if I could really make it with this writing business.
Wow. Okay. I have to tell you, the genre of books that I like to read is usually not fantasy, and but I like to stretch myself, because I like to read everything. I always think I'm going to read everything, and so I do. So every once in a while, I'm like, okay, I found a fantasy book. I'm going to read it. I'm going to go for it. And your book is crazy. Okay, like the world that you have thought of, I have listened to your book. I have read your book. I've been through it twice. Okay, and first of all, I want to show this cover again because it is absolutely beautiful. Look at that. And I try to put myself in the world that you created, and I was like, how did she do this? Like, how did you do it? How did you think of everything that you thought of? Like, it is crazy.
Didn't you like climbing trees as a kid?
Okay.
Didn't you not want to come down?
I don't think I climbed enough trees to. I mean, so I want to give it, the audience just a little bit of a background. So it's about this girl, and her name is Unar, and she lives in this world, and the thing is about, like, it took me so long to, like, envision in my mind this, like, the canopy, because it's called Crossroads of Canopy, and so it's like it's a canopy of a world, and she's going up and down, like, not out, like, it's such a different way to think about living in this up and down kind of a world, right?
Yeah, well, but also, like in science fiction, there's a lot of futures where skyscrapers are all connected, and you might be like one of the millionaires that lives in the penthouse and never actually comes down. So I wanted it to have a little bit of that feeling as well.
Yes. Well, I felt like it was really spiritual too. Like, there's a lot of, like, well, okay, there's a lot of magic for one thing, but I don't know. Why don't you tell me, like, when you said you were going to, like, give this writing thing, like, did you know that that's where you wanted to take it? Like, were you like, yes, I'm going to be a fantasy writer. That's what I see myself as.
Well, science fiction and fantasy is probably my favourite genre to read. Horror, not so much.
No.
But it doesn't matter what you write. If you don't write about the things you love, the book's going to be terrible. So, I love animals. I was a vet, and I love the wilderness, and I love rainforests because of, how much is packed into them. Like, they're just these amazing and complex places. And at the same time, I have a bit of a thing about history. So my father is from Lebanon, and, you go there and you will see these archaeological diggings, and you'll have sort of the Ottoman Empire on top, and then under that you'll have something Roman, and then under that you'll have something Greek or Babylonian, and then underneath that you'll have something Egyptian or Phoenician, and I guess that's where the pantheon of gods came from, was just seeing how many different gods they had back then, and each for a different purpose, and then meshing that with the forest that I really, really love.
Yeah, and well, of course, because I knew your background, like, that's the first thing I thought of too, is like your love of the outdoors, and then the animals, and the way that you describe the different characters. It was just, it's hard to explain. It's hard to, like, because it was really different for me. It really was. And I felt like I was in there, and I was like trying to, okay, so whenever I'm reading this kind of book, I try to go into your head, right? And try to figure out a lot of symbolism. And sometimes I put symbolism where symbolism shouldn't be, okay? But that's just where I go. But
that's the point of having a writer and a reader. You have to contribute as much as me.
Yes, absolutely. And so, okay, the concept of the people falling, okay?
Yeah.
Where did you get that? Like, because I feel like it's a very spiritual thing, where it's like, that's the thing that they're the most afraid of, and that's the thing they have to protect their children from. And it's this, I don't know. I'll let you talk about it.
I find that interesting because, to me, the thing that people are most afraid of is the unknown. So to me, the terrifying thing about falling is that it's dark down there and you just don't know what's there.
And I keep
picturing this complete unknown.
Right, and I kept picturing this world that's in this, like they can see it, right? Like, they can look down, but then they can't see the bottom, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. So it's this, like, so it's kind of like to the center of...
It looks like that to them, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in my ideas of scale, so, I said a couple of times in the book that the trees were as tall as 700 people, by which, I was roughly meaning about 1,400 metres, which is the height of some of the tallest buildings in the world. But if there was no city at the bottom with the lights on, I mean, everyone's looked down from an aeroplane, or everyone who's been in an aeroplane has looked down and you can see where there's lights and where there's no lights. It's just nothing. And then at the same time for the width, because I'm an archer and the longest distance that you shoot in archery is 90 metres, I sort of went, well, that's how big the tree trunks are going to be. They're going to be 90 metres across. And then I wondered if my editor was going to change it into American units, but I was very spoiled and she let me keep them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't give spoilers, just so you know. Yeah. So it's like I've got to keep my when I'm dealing with fiction. I'm like, okay, what can I? In my brain, I'm like, I don't want to give away anything. But to say that I loved where you went with it. I was really happy, but I was also really shocked what happened. So, but I was happy, shocked. It was I was like, because I was listening, like I said, I've listened to it and I've read it. Okay. So I was driving when I got to the part, I wanted to look up who you got as your narrator, but she was really good. I don't know at the top of my head. I was going to look it up. I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to look it up.
I can tell you about the cover artist. His name's Mark Simonetti because I absolutely love that cover.
Oh my gosh! But, look at this. I mean, I don't know if you can really tell on there, but it's crazy. It is crazy good. But the narrator, what I loved about listening to your book, and I listen to a lot of books because I drive a lot and I liked listening, and I loved that with every character. Did you hear her do it? Because every character had a very distinct voice.
I didn't because, I live in quite a small unit and I have an 8-year-old child at home who's very interested in everything she's not allowed to have. So I told her this is an adult book and you're not reading it yet. And she's been trying to sneak a listen to it ever since. So I have not listened to it because she's always here.
Well, I think you will be, I'm not you, but I think you're going to be, like I said, I've listened to a lot of authors, and there was a way that she talked with every individual character that by listening to a couple chapters, I didn't have to know who, you know what I mean? I could tell which character she was by how she made her voice. And I was like, wow, I have listened to a lot of books, and I've never heard anyone quite with the dialect and everything that she added to it. I think you're going to be really happy about it. I really do. I think, I think your editor did a great job getting, because a lot of people listen to the audiobooks.
They put a great cover on it. They made a beautiful book. My editor was fantastic and easy to work with, and the copy edit was good. And, they have just given me so many great opportunities to get it out there. I could not be more happy with them. So I guess I'm taking them for granted a bit and just assuming that they got someone really good to do the audio.
Well, and that's why I always want to tell you when, I always like to tell the authors because of listening to the audio is that sometimes you take it for granted, you know what I mean? But like I said, it was an extremely talented person. I mean, she is an extremely talented. So hopefully you'll get her and then my next question was like, is there going to be another one?
The next one. Yeah, I don't know.
And then you said yes, there's going to be another one, right?
There is, yes. So Echoes of Understory is the second one. You can probably guess, the first one has Canopy in the title and the second one has Understory in the title. And the third one, Floodwaters of Floor, is the tentative title for that. So
okay, because I was going to say it does say trilogy, so it wasn't like a shock that it's going to be, because this says right here that it's book 1. And I think, and it says trilogy. Okay, so I wasn't shocked. I was like, yes, there's going to be more. So it's like that world that you've created. This, I don't know. Have you been offered for a movie for this?
No.
I hope so. I hope that's what happens. I really do. I really hope that's what happens.
That's a bit of a lottery jackpot sort of moment. I have no expectations in that area, but it would be great.
I think that those are the ones that translate into movies really well, are the fantasy ones, the fantasy
Well,
books.
I guess there's a sequel to Avatar coming out, and some people have asked me, do I think that this book has similarities to Avatar? Which I don't really think it does, but when you're trying to think of movies set in a rainforest,
right,
that springs to mind.
Right. So where did you get her name? I wanted to know. Like, is that did you just create that name? Because it's not something I've ever heard of, you know?
So what I was trying to do with the names was have really distinct names for each level of the rainforest. You know, as you do, like, the name Michelle tells me you are from a Western country, and
right.
So what I was working out for the naming system in Canopy was having everything begin with a vowel, which later on turned out to be quite difficult because we only have 5 of those.
You know what? I didn't even notice that, but that's true. You do. Except
you know, the writing rules are try not to make the characters have 2 similar sounding names. So I struggled a bit with that, but I just wanted it to be something short and
and different, like, and a character that was
not like the names in Understory read the same forward as back for the reason that they have that superstition that helps you move in both directions up and down the tree. So
right.
They're allowed to start with consonants.
That was pretty cool too. But yeah, I was, you know, like I try to envision her, and you know, it's like her character is so strong. She's such a strong lead character, you know, that I was like, but I was, her age, was she, I'm trying to think if you even said her age in it. Was she like 30? I keep thinking that it's like in teenage.
So she was a kid in the prologue, but by the first chapter, she's like 16 or 17.
16, okay.
16, I think.
Yeah. That's kind of what
so she's quite young, and, you know, I think you can forgive a lot of her shortcomings if you think about how old she is and what kind of an upbringing, like a terrible childhood that she's had. And I deliberately, you know, I couldn't make her into this super nice person because the chances of a poorly treated, I mean, I think Joe Rowling tried to make this point about Harry Potter, which was what was extraordinary about him was that he had matured into such a good person despite his terrible abusive childhood. And I think the reality is that if you haven't seen loving families modelled around you, then you don't know how to do that very well.
Right.
Or in the case of this character, she doesn't know how to do that very well. So
right.
I couldn't, you know, I had a bit of pushback on some of the things that she did, but I felt determined that this is how she would have behaved and this is the kind of person she is.
Well, I do love all the ways that you use magic. I love how it's such a part and how they get their magic and how they keep their magic. I mean, that's the part that was my favorite part of the whole thing. I did, and that's why I said it was like, so to me it seemed very spiritual in how you were, you know, making those characters get certain magical powers at different points, you know, and that's the part of the, you know, that I was like, oh, how did she think of that? You know, like, I don't know. It's whenever I talk to an author who is a fantasy author, like, I'm like, how do you, like, you have intense dreams, okay? Because
it's not always good. It's not always good to, you know, be imagining what ifs all the time. You know, you should see me letting my daughter out of my sight. What if this? What if that? But it's what you need to write fantasy is a what if kind of brain.
Right, and you know what? I saw an interview one time that Oprah had with J.K. Rowling, and she actually showed that as she was writing, she was drawing. Did you do that with this? Did you draw out some of these scenes?
I drew. I drew the maps. If you open to the front,
yes,
that's my. I mean, it's been tidied up by
this does
somebody.
Have some cool pictures. Yeah, this has some very cool pictures. Look at this.
Oh, not that one.
Not that one?
Just
okay, but that is cool. But look at that. I just need to say, that is a very cool picture.
It's very jungly, and
very
I also prefer that picture.
Oh, this. Okay, here we go. Look
yes.
at that. Okay. And that's another reason to love these hardbacks is because of the pictures and the cover. But yeah, this is, so you drew this before?
I did.
Did you do it before you started writing, like to get a good idea of where everybody was going to be? Yeah.
So I knew I was going to have to leave out some of my favourite trees. In fact, some people still find that there's too many different trees. But I made that so that I, decided which trees were going to be the star.
Right. No, it's very cool. I love that. I really do. And especially even, I'm looking at it after going through your book twice, and I'm like, yes, I should have gone back. Oh, I get it now. Like, people, when you are reading this, use that map, okay? It will help you. So is the second book written, or is that what stage it's at? Like it's at the editor?
Yeah. Well, even the third one, I've turned in the third one.
Oh, okay.
Although I haven't had my editor's response yet.
Okay.
But the second one, so you may be disappointed about this since you love the magic so much. So the first book, the protagonist is Una, and she is a magic wielding character. The second book, the protagonist is Imerus, who is a non-magical warrior type character. So she's going to have a very different perspective on the world, and more sort of physical adventures than Una had.
And then third?
And then the third book is going to be from a spy character. But I don't want to talk too much about him in case the book has to be changed significantly.
Okay. I get that. Well, you know what? I really do hope that this turns into a movie, because I see it as a movie. Like I said, I think that it would be very cool, with the jungle and with the way that they can make the movie so 3D. This would be an incredible 3D movie. So,
Or computer game.
Yeah, computer game. There you go. I should be thinking that. My kids play computers, but yes, exactly. Like, because just to make the set of that world would be incredible, So I am so happy that you wrote this, and I can't wait to read the next one, Thoraiya.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thank you for making the effort to, to connect with me. So.
No problem. My luck, and next time where did you say you are again?
I'm in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to put all your links at the bottom here, but are you also, just so that anybody who is in Australia that's listening to this, are you doing book signings or anything like that with it?
So I've just finished. I've just come back from Melbourne, and that was my last one for Crossroads of Canopy, but I am certain to have some kind of event for Echoes of Understory in February next year. I am going to be at the New South Wales Writers' Centre Speculative Fiction Festival next month, and the month after that I will be at the World Science Fiction Convention in Helsinki.
Interesting that they consider it science fiction. I didn't really think of that. Is that what
I'm a bit guilty there of lumping everything in together. It's the World Science Fiction and Fantasy Convention.
Okay, science fiction. I was like, that's an interesting, I never thought of it. Like, how did they do that? But, okay, I understand. They just kind of put science fiction and fantasy together. That makes sense.
And I think Australian writers especially cross over a lot. It's not as clear-cut here. We're a bit guilty of having science and future technology in the same story as magic.
Well, I mean, and this book is doing really well on Amazon. I mean, you've gotten great reviews, and I mean, do your fans do they tell you what they want next out of these characters? Like, do you find that that's what they do?
So far, yes. I mean, I think they're broadly divided into people who love the world and people who love Una. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
how the next book goes.
Well, I can't wait to read it, and maybe we can chat again after we get that one out. What do you think?
That'd be great. My pleasure. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Thoraiya. You have a great day, and
thanks, Michelle.
And we'll talk soon.
Dreams.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you. Bye.
You too. Good night. Bye.